Hello and welcome. Afternoon, happy Friday. Right. Right, we are all set. Welcome in. Um, my name is Tim. I go by Foamy Guy on GitHub and Discord. And this is the Deep Dive, which is a weekly live stream program. It was started by and is usually featuring Scott Shawcroft, the lead developer of CircuitPython. He's out for a couple of weeks right now with paternity leave, and so I am here filling in for a couple of weeks, and then he'll be back for a little bit, but then he'll be gone for another chunk, and I will probably be filling in again. I tend to fill in anytime I can if he's around for any reason. A brand new baby is a very good reason to not be around. So he'll be gone for the next couple of weeks. He'll be back for a little bit, then he'll be gone for a while longer. But if you are new and you don't know, if you haven't caught the program before, he is typically working on the cutting edge of whatever is coming up in CircuitPython. You are in fact new and you don't know what CircuitPython is, you can learn more at the main website for it right here, circuitpython.org. This is basically a version of Python that can run on tiny computers called microcontrollers. And if you choose to use CircuitPython with your microcontroller, the way it typically works is you plug it into your computer with the USB cable. It shows up like a thumb drive, just a little external storage drive, and on there is a Python code file, which you can then edit, and when you save it, the tiny computer, the microcontroller that's in these little chips here, will actually read and interpret and execute that Python code that you put inside the file. So that's like the 50,000 foot view of what CircuitPython is all about. And of course, the devil is in the details. It goes into a kind of a million different directions depending on what you want to do with it, because these microcontrollers typically are fairly generalized devices. They're meant sort of generally to drive other sorts of electronics, hook up to sensors and inputs and outputs like displays and lights and speakers and all kinds of stuff. So these things, there's a whole world of them. There's a whole bunch of different shapes and sizes. All of the 550 ones on this page are the ones that do support CircuitPython if you would like to program them this way. They, of course, also all support other ways that you can program as well. This is only one kind of way to do it. So, as always, thank you to Adafruit. Adafruit is the company that makes CircuitPython possible by paying Scott and the rest of the team who work on CircuitPython full-time. As well as some people like me who work on the project on a more of a part-time basis. And Adafruit makes that possible by paying the folks, paying them for their time to work on this. CircuitPython is a free and open source software. Anyone is allowed to use it. Anyone is allowed to add support to your own devices, to CircuitPython. You don't have to pay anyone to do so. You don't have to pay for a license or any kind of stuff like that. It's all totally free if you want to use it on your devices. It's all free if you want to design your own device and then add CircuitPython support to it. And Adafruit, again, makes all of that possible by paying the team of folks who work on it and then, choosing to publish all of that stuff as open source software, which I, of course, think is really cool. So head over there to adafruit.com if you want to help support them and those of us that work on CircuitPython. One of the easiest ways to do it is just by purchasing hardware over at adafruit.com. You can get yourself the microcontroller devices. You can also get all sorts of other stuff to plug into the microcontrollers to do with them. I am going to start by downloading the new Funhouse because I have a Funhouse loaded up right here. I'm going to grab the latest firmware because I know it's not up to date. And we're going to load that, and then we will jump right in. DBD, how's it going to my friend DBD over there on YouTube? Nice to see you on this fine Friday. It's afternoon/evening for me, but I know different folks tune in from different places. And obviously the time, is that not the reset? Not do it fast enough. There we go. I did it too fast, in fact. Okay. While that is queuing up, good evening. I love the FRAM breakout board I bought from Adafruit. Was able to issue commands to it with a manual clock on a breadboard and get a response from it. Nice. Glad to hear. B Autograph, how's it going to you? Out of the bad mink, I like it. All right, so here is the fun house loaded up. It has something unrelated running on it. I don't even know. We'll see. In fact, I'll probably just clear it out. This is well, first of all, it has an API token in it, so that's nice. I think it doesn't matter. Hold on. Let's go to. Let's figure out if we need to think about this. I think this is fine. This is fine. This was a test server I made. It only runs on my network, and it's not running right now, so there's the token for it. Don't steal it, or do steal it. You're not going to be able to do anything with it anyway. Maybe next time I will not just leave a token in my CodePy file. So let's save that as IoT server test. And then we can clear it out and dive into what I really want to work on today, which is in display text. We have a couple of different ways to make text already. We have kind of bitmap label, which I go to as the default one. We do have label, which is a bit different. These two, the differences between them don't matter too much. It's really more under the hood about how it stores the text. Visually, they should appear roughly the same. When you look at them on the display, we also have a couple of other embellished ones, like the outlined one can do text with a tight outline in a different color, kind of like a stroke line versus the fill of the text. And then scrolling is able to kind of store a longer string and then scroll through it character by character at a predetermined time, or you have to call update on it, but it has a predetermined time and it knows when to change to the next character over. It's kind of like a marquee scrolling thing, that one is. What I would like to work on, what I would like to add, what I kind of had in the back of my head for a long time is a label that allows you to specify the size. So right now, bitmap label and label, they do not let you specify the size. When you make a label, you get a label and its width is going to end up being however wide it needs to be to show whatever text you put in it. So if we grab simple test, and I put it here, and if everything else works, this will reload, and hello world appears right there. And we could, is there, I think, a background color? We could set the background color to like green or the foreground. Let's do the background color as pink and the foreground as black. I think is text, maybe text color. That's actually real, or if the IDE is making stuff up on me. Okay, yeah. No, text color, that totally doesn't exist. That's not what that's called. That's just the IDE making stuff up. I mean, it was a good guess, but okay, that's better. It's a little hard to read because it's so small. That's fine. I guess we could scale it maybe. Okay, so we have a label, and its size will grow to whatever you put in it. In fact, I'm going to leave it on, well, I'm not going to leave it. I'm going to put it back down to scale 2 instead of scale 3. And then you can see, because we've added the pink, we can kind of see the rectangle that this label occupies. And if we put more stuff in it, then it will occupy a bigger spot. It will just make a bigger rectangle. And in this case, in fact, it's big enough that it runs off the screen. So as your text gets bigger, your label gets bigger. And this is true of both bitmap label and label. The scrolling label, I guess you could say it sort of has a predetermined size because there's a number of characters that you set to it, and then it, you know, that's how many it will show at once, and it will always cycle through the rest of them. Okay. Playing Factorio before this. Let me see. Remember to do that one, maybe. Oh, okay, problem. It's not too big of a problem. OBS and everything seems mostly okay, so we'll try to power through and assume it's not going to be too big of a problem. Is this on? Quiet, actually. Let me turn that up just a bit. I don't know if I was quiet. If I'm too loud now, let me know. But what if we wanted to say, like, I only want this label to be, 200 pixels wide or 150 pixels wide or whatever, right? Like, maybe we're trying to build a user interface and we're trying to place these labels, and we need to, we want to have like a max width. Like, we want to tell it, don't go any wider than this, no matter what text I put in you. If I try to put text that's too long, then either A, just don't show the stuff that you can't. In fact, like the E here is kind of off the screen, right? It's just not showing. That could be one possible behavior. Another possible behavior could be try to wrap it, right? So if I give it too much text to fit in the width that I've told it, then maybe it will go and wrap. So like deep dive might end up on the next line down, for instance. That's another one that's a little bit more user-friendly, I guess, than just not showing it. But this is kind of what I would like to do. And then if we get this, once this component exists, this, I'm calling it a text box because you're defining the box that it will occupy up front rather than just allowing it to occupy whatever shape it needs because of the text you put into it. Once this component exists, this text box, the next enhancement, the next thing I would like to do with it is a little bit too loud. Okay, thank you. Go back down. The next thing that I would like to do with it is we could then have alignments. So we could say align right or align center, and your label could have its text either lined up on the right edge or lined up in the center, whereas today it is only possible to align left. There is really no alignment. The alignment is just always left. And if you think about it, like align center and align right are, as a concept, they don't really make sense if we don't have a defined width. If our width always just grows with the size of our text, then we're always kind of centered, we're always kind of left, and we're always kind of right, all at the same time, basically. Okay, so hopefully that sets the stage for what I want to do. If anyone has questions, comments, or ideas, feel free to drop them in any of the chats there. I will say, I think we're on a few more platforms, right? It goes through Restream. I think we end up on Twitch and maybe Facebook and a few others, in fact, potentially. The only chats I can see, just for anybody that might be watching, the only chats I can see are Discord and YouTube. So if you do have questions or comments or anything, those are the places to go. Those are the two that are on the screen down below me as well. I'm just going to delete this and grab the current version because that was looking out of date a little bit. Okay. I'm gonna outlined label extends bitmap label, scrolling label also extends bitmap label. We probably could technically extend bitmap label, but I think I'm not going to because we would, I guess we can. Yes, we can. So some stuff I'm not going to have. I don't intend to support the label directions with this. So we'll get rid of that stuff. So the reason I hesitate about extending it is I know for a fact we're going to be changing this. Yeah, I think eventually we're going to be changing place text, which is a large part of this. It's 100-ish lines, and then also we probably would end up replacing Maybe not bounding box, but reset text, which is another big chunk of the logic inside of here. Yeah, definitely reset text would change. And I think place text probably is going to change as well. Yeah. I think I'm going to... I guess we could... We're going to support all the same stuff? Like... Well, the upwards, downwards... I mean, I don't intend to support those, so it won't... It's probably best not to subclass, since this is kind of built-in functionality, and I won't probably support it. So what we'll do is we'll extend label base, but we will end up, especially at the beginning here, we'll end up sharing a bunch of code with bitmap label, and we'll kind of diverge a bit more as we go on. Okay. I'm going to just assume that save text is true. Save text is a thing that lets you choose not to store a string of your text and instead just process it in memory, and then after that it's in the bitmap only. For now, I'm going to leave this alone. Hey, why can't I? Oh, there it is. Not sure if we need that. Even really sure what this does. Turn 6 ints. Text. String font. Oh, okay. I think this is one of the things we need, actually. Yeah. I don't... Why are... So, final box width, height? Oh, height. Final box width, height, tight. Left. Y offset, tight. Height, loose. Y offset, loose. Okay. What a bizarre set of things to return. And in a weird order, too, kind of. Pixel-wise, horizontal scrolling would be nice. Vertical scrolling would be frosting on the cake. I'll tell you, I don't know. I can't point you to it right now off the top of my head, but K-Match, Kevin Matocha, I think is, I'm not sure if that's pronounced right, but he's the one who made a bunch of bitmap label as well. He actually did some work at one point on a scrollable bitmap label. Like I said, I don't know how to tell you to, I don't know where to tell you to look to find it, but there was one, it was actually working really well on whatever he was showing it on. It was like a touch and drag scrolling, kind of like a browser on a phone. Actually really impressed with how fast it was able to render. Scrolling by lines would be potentially easier to do and better for devices that aren't quite as powerful, because I do think that pixel to pixel scrolling, which is what his was, means it will have to be able to render quicker to keep it smooth. So it looks like that basically just measures some text that you give to it, which is good. We're going to want to be able to measure it because we will ultimately need to know if it's going to be too wide, and then if it is, we will make it wrap. Or I should say, so actually the wrapping function that we have, which we'll make use of, will handle the wrapping for us. What this will be useful for, though, for sure, is when we get to the alignment ones and we want to do align center, align right, this is going to give us the ability to measure how wide a given line will be, which we will need to know how wide it is to be able to know where to place it in the x-axis. So like if we're a line center, then we will center the width of the line on the center of the label. If we're a line right, then we'll scooch the x over until it's enough pixels to make the right side line up. Hopefully that makes sense. Portal Base has a nice horizontal scrolling scheme. Interesting, I didn't know that. Y2 chat seems slow, recommending. There's already a couple of methods, and yeah, wrap text we'll use for sure. Yeah. You mean slow, like slow to show up on the screen? Looks like it's updated. I will, sometimes I have it not scrolled far enough and then it's not showing the newest one, but it looks like it is now. Or are you saying maybe you mentioned something about that in the YouTube chat? If you did say that in the YouTube chat, it doesn't look like it showed up, actually, because I don't see... It's not that it's slow, it's that even the one that I can see, which presumably should be live, doesn't have that in it. The YouTube chat's not just broken? In a separate tab. No. Yeah. I don't, if you did mention that about the wrapping in YouTube as well, I do not see it there. Okay. So the big difference is we are going to take a width and a height right here. These are just going to be ints. And we're going to save them. Eventually, one thing we might do is height. Maybe we eventually support a constant that says, like, allow the height to grow. So for alignment, we really care about the width more than the height, unless you wanted to align bottom, I guess, which is a thing I suppose we could support if we have a height as well. Although align center and right are really my primary. Width can't be set. Okay, so that's not going to work because we extend label base. No, label base extends group. Property width can't be set. Why? Does label base have a width? Width? Does. Well, that complicates things. Okay. I mean, that's no problem. So we just go underscore width, we go underscore height, and then we're gonna have... Trying to go down, thank you. And then we're gonna have to override those. And we will turn width and height instead of bounding box, although ultimately bounding box should probably end up having the same values in it if I'm thinking correctly, but I'm a lot more of a wait and see when we get to it kind of person. When I posted it, it was, and then now it's not there. Not important, probably me problem. Yeah, no worries. Okay, so we have our height and width. We're taking those in the constructor. We're storing them. And now I think reset text is where we do some of the stuff we need to do differently. So let's walk through this. Instance variables, so line spacing, that's like how far vertically there is between lines. If the text is none, use the previous value. I don't know why text would be none. I guess if you did text equals none, then I don't know why you would want to do the previous value anyway. If text, yeah, I don't know why that would do that, but that's fine. If we have save text, string will be saved. Yeah, in fact, actually, save text I took out, right? Save text was, we don't need that because save text was whether or not we are going to store it as a string, and I'm just going to assume that we are. And in fact, ultimately, we might store it also as a list of lines that we wrap it into. It's going to be mad about parentheses. Buddy, get down. Cat's climbing the window. Okay, empty string or text is none. Bounding box. This is all if text is none. I did a lot of display text stuff recently. One was a take on a magtag literary quote clock. Nice. Use custom cursive fonts on a bigger display. Needed to handle baseline alignment. Others a word clock that uses the animation class to scroll the text. Uses the animation class? First ease out, update text, ease in from the other side. Curious to see how your project goes. Which animation class? Yeah, that would be another thing that would be cool to have as like a Displayio animator. So you could do stuff like you're talking about, especially with not only the animation, but the like speed over time, the easing, speeding up, accelerating, and slowing down stuff. If we had a generalized library or class for that that could be used with Displayio stuff, that'd be super cool. CircuitPython animation libraries? The LED one? LED animation or something? That's the only animation one I know of is LED animation. Which I could be applied to that somehow, potentially. There must be one I'm not aware of, probably. Okay, so this is empty string. I'm gonna leave it, although at some point we might come back to it and cut some of it out. I don't know if we need to care about empty string so much. So the text is a string, it's not empty. We want to create a bitmap and a tile grid, append it to the self group, calculate the bounding box size. Okay, so here it is calculating the size by calling text bounding box on text, giving it the font, and then this is gonna return the size in this big tuple. It is kind of a weird set of things, but then it's going to go and do background tight and some other stuff. Do I want to keep background tight? Yeah, I guess I'll keep background tight for now. But we're going to do this differently. We're not going to bounding box it. We're going to take we're just going to use the sizes we have. Okay, so box X and box Y, that's the width and height. So instead of using the measured width and height, we're going to use the hard-coded ones, which they're not hard-coded really, they got passed into the constructor. But another thing we should do even right in the constructor, I think, is... As soon as we do this, we should also wrap to the width that we know we want. Which is, we can do with wrap to pixels. And that's going to give us a list. Give me a sec, I'll pull it up. Nice. So we go self. I'm just going to say self.lines equals, this is not on the class, it's just a function. So wrap text to pixels. Import that from, yeah. And it takes what? String, so that's going to be self._text. Max width is going to be the width that we were passed, which we have stored on self.width. Font is font. Indent 0, indent 1. We're going to skip those. We don't need those right now. Okay, so then we'll have the lines. I'm gonna make this also accept the lines. I mean, it's all on self, so does it really matter? Matter that much? But I think I'm gonna make that accept the lines as well. That one's mostly in anticipation for the alignment. Because once we get to wanting to align to the right and to the center, we're going to have to measure how wide each line is. So this will be easier to do if we have this. It's on self and we could just access it from self, but we'll pass it in for now to match the fact that text was getting passed in here as well. And we may ultimately probably just not need text to be passed in here, but I'll leave it for now. Replace tabs. I wonder why this is right here. Python Displayio animation. Ah, okay, there's another K-match thing. In fact, I didn't even know about this one. Yeah, thanks for the link, by the way. Ah, yeah, no, I totally didn't even know that. I mean, I knew K-match implemented some of this logic because it's used in the it's used in one of the widgets that he created. It's used in the flip something, flip input or something like that. Huh. Yeah, I totally didn't know this existed. We fork it, so I'll have a copy of it. We should move this to the Adafruit bundle, maybe? Cool. Yeah, that's awesome. Thank you for that. Yeah, and I've know a lot of the things that K-Match worked on, but not this one. Yeah, at least community bundle for sure. Okay, let's see here. So, do we want to let it calculate any of this stuff? Any of it actually matter? Because it all just goes into padding. You have to worry about padding for sure. Height. Type box down here. This is updating the bounding box, and this is handling the directions. Well, so we'll just go with the not up or down. It is updating the bounding box. This all inside if tight? No. Tight is false. Interesting. I guess if tight is false, then this will just end up as a different number? Yeah, because... Okay. Wait. I opposite. I think to start with, I'm gonna let it actually calculate some of the stuff, but we just won't use it for now, and then I'll cut it out as we go. I'm also gonna go ahead and change this to use the new one, which no longer imported this way. Did I not change the class name? Yeah, this animation looks pretty cool. Definitely should be in a bundle. Yeah, I totally agree. Bucks. 1010, okay. Do we even have enough to run right now, or have I destroyed its... Yeah. No. And we do, well, we didn't give it a width and a height, so, yeah. And those are, in fact, positional arguments. So width and height, so I think the display, I'm going to go back down to scale 1 because I don't know how this is going to interact with scaling. And I'm going to set the width to 120 because that's half of the size of the display that I'm on. And I'll set the height, I think, also to 120 for now. Okay, text box has no dir map. Direction map, so 243. I think we just get rid of this because we're not going to do directions for now. And we would also get rid of this since we're not doing directions as well. And then, yeah, that looks like the only thing using dir map. Because it crashed. It was going to restart. Okay, there we go. So that at least runs. It's not really doing anything with the width and height, but it does run, so that's cool. So if we just change the size, how badly does it break? We want, where's reset text? I need to be in reset text, not place text. Or the other thing we could do is even keep all of those being calculated, but just slip in different values here. Well, but then this will get recreated every time. But we could test against the other ones instead. I don't know for sure if it's going to support changing the width and height. That might be set it once, and then if you want to change it, make a new one. But I will do this. This code would definitely be necessary if we do ultimately want to support changing it. But I might be a bit lazy there and just say you can initialize a new one if you want to change it. It's not the end of the world, I don't think. Like, at the end of the day, it's going to initialize a new bitmap and a new tile grid inside of here anyway. Like, you might as well pretty much just initialize a new label. But I will leave it for the moment. So that's going to create a bitmap, and then down here it's going to create a tile grid, and the width is going to be, we want it to be the same as the entire bitmap. And X and Y, we can leave all that stuff alone, and in fact, that's probably good that we kept some of these. Okay, does that do anything different? Nice. Okay. Okay. So, and then what would happen if I see it's like basically we made it to the very end. Let's just make sure if this was not there, it would still be the same size square, right? Yes, okay, very good. And then if this was longer deep dive so that it would run all the way off the edge, should still clip, basically. Oh, okay, value error. Okay. So we need to, so I was expecting it to clip, but it doesn't actually do that. Instead, we get an error because we ultimately try to blit off the edge of the bitmap. We could just pass text here since we're not going to do right to left. How do we want to handle that? So we did we already have lines. So really what we want to do is use lines, self.lines, instead of self.text. This all gets created, and then we get to place text, and place text goes for character in text. And then if it's a new line, we have special behavior. And if it's not a new line, then we basically blit the bitmap from the font file into our bitmap. But we pretty much kind of want different logic here. Or the other option is we leave this alone. Hmm. Trying to think here a little bit. So I'm gonna make a original text, or like user given. I don't know. I'll just keep it as original text. It is gonna not have tabs though, because I think tabs, we just don't support tabs if I recall correctly. Well, I think replace tabs might replace tabs by 4 spaces. Not positive though. So we'll do replace tabs, then we'll set this to original text, but then what we're gonna go and do is underscore text will be new line dot join the wrapped lines. So now the text that we will draw will be wrapped to that In our case, 120 pixels, whatever the width was. Nice. So we have Hello World longer, and then Deep Dive gets automatically wrapped down. Cool. Okay. So we're part of the way there already. That part was actually pretty easy, which is nice. So we will probably crash. How's it going, Yano? Good evening to you, my friend. We will probably crash if we had so many lines that it would run off the bottom, I assume. Yeah. So we got a value error on Y. We went off the bottom. Ignore. So this might make it just clip, I think, right? Yeah, perfect. That's what I was expecting. And it's hard to see through the camera. It's hard to see in person too. But there's a little bit of the line below, I think. Like we actually got the dot of the eye, it looks like. Which is like not ideal, but you know. It could be worse. It's not crashing anymore. Just back from work. What's the project today? So I am working today on a text box. So the way I explained it before is we have label and we have bitmap label, and they kind of behave the same. And the way they work is they will just get wider no matter... Their width will be based on the text that you give them. So if you give them only 2 words, then it will be just as wide as it needs to be to fit those 2 words. You give them a 3rd word, then it will, you know, the new width will be as wide as it needs to be to fit all of those words. So it will always grow to fit whatever text you give it. What I'm trying to make is one that is different. You declare the height and width when you create it, and then it will always contain whatever text you give it inside that height and width. So right now I have it set to 120 by 120. And it's automatically doing the wrapping for us so we don't run off the edge over here. And then we just made it so that we don't crash when we run off the bottom down here. And all of this is ultimately an aim to make it so that we can have aligned text. So right now all this text is aligned to the left. Once we have this text box existing and working, it's working fairly well already, truthfully, we could maybe add alignment. So this text could be aligned to the right or aligned center so that you could have centered text, or aligned to the right if you wanted to put some on the right edge of the screen. Okay. So, I mean... we're basically there. It would be nice to probably cut it off without the little dot of the eye. But such is life, I think, for now. Truthfully, I am mostly concerned with being able to declare the width. The height is kind of a secondary thing. I think it's less likely that, or I should say, I think I personally cannot think of as many cases, as many reasons to use it, or places to use it where we declare the height and then we are going to actually give it more and it's going to have to clip. I don't, like, it could happen, but I don't see it as particularly likely. Now maybe when the scroll, like if scrolling was in the mix, then that's a totally different ballgame. We care a lot about the height in that case, but for now I don't see it as important as the width, so I'm not as concerned about chasing down the half line down there, but eventually we could figure it out. We could try to pre-measure the line and decide whether the whole thing is going to land within the bitmap or not, and then if not, we could bail before we actually blit any pixels instead of just bailing once we start to fail. But for now, I'm going to work on something different. And I think that something different is actually, I think we're kind of ready for the alignment, truthfully. So this is all working pretty well. There's obviously a lot of code that is not really in use at the moment that I will go back to cutting out some more, but so far this is actually pretty good. We would probably want to try catch on this as well. This is kind of some transitionary code. I think maybe 10.0 might be the time to remove this finally. I don't remember for sure when that got removed from bitmap. So in order to do this, we need to measure, I want to try to measure the width of each line. Okay, so this is actually pretty easy here. So when we see, we're looping over characters, and when we find a new line, we reset the X and Y positions, which is going to affect where we start putting the next pixels. So if we want to align right or align center, all we have to do is set X position correctly based on where we need to be. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to say cur line starts on 0. Whenever we find a new line, it goes up by 1. And then these are where they get set the first time. So this is where we would need to do it for the first row. Or I'm calling it a line here, so I'll try to stay with line instead of row. Cool, so static versus dynamic sizing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I suppose the predictability is helpful when considering right and left justification and center. Yeah. With dynamic sizing, the align right, align center concept doesn't really exist all the way. Like, you could align it within the display, which we have anchor point and anchor position, so you know, if you're creating a label with a single word, centering that within the display is easy. But if you're creating a label with at least 2 lines worth of text, then centering it and having both lines actually be centered is difficult today. It's not impossible to achieve that visual effect. You could kind of cheat by using multiple labels, or you could cheat by putting spaces in your lines or something, but it's inconvenient. So I'm hoping this makes it more convenient for that use case of, like, I have multiple lines worth of text and I want them to be centered or aligned to the right. Or the other place where this comes in handy is, I think, if you're trying to build a UI layout and you have multiple labels like next to each other and you don't want them to ever grow bigger than a certain width, right? So this makes it like you could still achieve that with the old labels, just doing wrapping in your user code, but this will make it so you don't have to worry about it now. You can just initialize this kind and then it wraps for you, so you kind of lose some boilerplate in your user code, which is nice. So we need an alignment, so I'm gonna actually come back up here and add another argument, which is going to be align equals, and we are going to default to left. Actually, I'll call it align left. This could be a const. Okay, I'm gonna start with just left, right, and center. And maybe later we will get into bottom and top. I bet being able to specify monospace font would be useful if you need to pre-calculate the size. Yeah, so we actually, so monospace font would make it super easy, but honestly, a lot of the work is already done for us. Text bounding box right here. This already measures a string given a font. So even if your font is not monospace, this method should still measure its width and a bunch of other numbers successfully. I'm also reminded of how the layout for newsprint. Oh yeah, there you go. These subtle adjustments to kerning to preserve nice columns. That's true. Yeah, this will not do any of that for you. The extra spaces and stuff to make it kind of align left and right. They kind of make it. They try to make it so it like starts and ends the line with a character. This will not help you with that. I mean, it will help you slightly by giving you a set width, but it won't really help you by figuring out where's the opportune place to put those spaces to make it work like that. Okay, so default is left, and if we're default, then we just have the same behavior we already have. Nice and easy. X start. So this is going to be if I didn't actually save this. Equals. Guess I can't use this here. Weird, I'm allowed to use that up there, but not down here. I don't really understand why that's the case. Fine though. We need to save a line. I didn't actually do that. And then we need to update that also in another spot. Is here. The Y position can stay the same for now. If we're going to be doing align bottom and top, then we maybe need to add something here, but okay, this should just run and work the exact same way. Yeah. Okay. So this is going to spam a lot. Is it? Maybe I could stop it from spamming a lot. Yeah, I think I could stop it from spamming a lot, actually. So what I'm going to do is print self.text bounding box of the current line, which we're before the loop here, so we know it's line 0, 0. What else? The font, self.font. Pop-ups. Okay, those are the only things we need. Let's just do that. And yeah, let's just start with that. Okay. Probably the first one is the width, I guess. Yeah, I think it's probably like width, height, and then like padding left, padding right, top, and bottom, but I don't know what order. That's my guess, because on the left we do not have any padding. The black line of the H is all the way on the very edge of the box. We could add some, but by default there is none. So then my guess is this must be 108 pixels, probably. which tracks because the pink box should be 120, so that's 12 less, which looks reasonable to my eye. So cur line width is actually equal to the first item in this. And we want to update it here after we update cur line. Cur line probably should say cur line index. Wanted to be kind of like correct about what its name is. And then that's going to be 0 because it's still the first one. So I'm just going to do print cur line width. Let me do an F string. Okay, so this should print the widths of each line, which we'll be able to see them go back and forth there. Yeah, 8472, 8472. It's doing a bunch of the ones that are off the screen also. I guess one thing we could do... One thing we could do is move the try-catch, actually. Let's not do this here. Instead, let's do it here. And now what we can do is break. If it happens, then we will not do the lines at the end. Yeah, it will stop working once it gets to lines that are going to be clipped off anyway. Because that will now break out of the for loop instead of continuing on. Okay. Okay. This has actually been a lot easier than I thought it would be. Because I think we're really close, right? Like if we just do... So we have the line width. Actually, we need to calculate this before this bit here. If we have the line width... Before we set the X start. Okay, one thing we will have to do. One thing that's going to get weird is our X start is going to be changing from line to line. Right now, that's not the case. Right now, X start gets set once at the beginning and then that's it. It doesn't get changed. But in our case, well, for a line center and right, we would actually end up needing the X start to change for each line. Try center. It's not going to be the right value. So this position start with is just what gets passed in. So we actually need to add to that. So for center, we would need to add half of the unused space. Unused space is equal to self.width minus the width of the current line. And then we would say x position plus unused space over 2 for center. And then actually for right, it should be very similar. But it would be... Wait. Unused... Yeah. Because unused space is in pixels, yeah, which is what we want. Okay. So it just would be not divide by 2, I think. Maybe we need a -1. We might be off by 1. It shouldn't do anything different, but it should hopefully not crash either. Okay. So right now it's only going to affect the first line, if it affects anything at all, and doesn't crash. Oh, wow, no, okay, it's going to wreck every line. Fair enough. Huh. Start. Lock. Okay. I do have to run to the restroom, so I will be right back. For the rest of this here. BRB. Okay. Start lock 612. So 6 is definitely what I was expecting. Because we knew that our width was 108. We subtracted 120 minus 108. That gave us 12. We took half of 12. That should be 6, which is what we got. Did it actually scooch over any? Let me do something different. Let's do a line right. Instead of center. Does not seem to make a difference. I wonder if we got moved any further there? I think so. We're gonna make 2 of these. Main group equals Displayio group. This will be main group instead, and then we will, oops. Okay, so that will not make a difference visually, but that's going to make it so that we can have another text. So it'll just get placed on top right now, so it's still not going to be visually different. But what I'm going to do is make this one green instead. Move it down some. And set it to not line right. Okay. The location of the first line, the X location of the first line is not different. Which is weird since you have the starting lock being different. And then the location of every subsequent line gets wrecked. Looks like it got set to the end of where the previous line ended. So is X start not what I thought? I thought that would be like the first place where we blit? Say right equals X start? Okay, well we haven't done this. Okay, that's why this part's wrecked. That's why every line except the first one's broken. But why is the first one broken? The first one, I feel like this should have gotten scooched. So we should have no space here and instead space here, but it didn't happen. I don't remember which order all the arguments go in. We want the X and Y where we are gonna place stuff. Yeah. Okay. So third and fourth. Well, okay, the arguments are in a different order. So this takes bitmap target bitmap, XY, and then source bitmap. Bitmap tools, which I'm looking at, takes target bitmap, source bitmap, and then XY. So that's X and that's Y. And this goes max X position plus myglyph dx 0. So if it max is making it so that it won't be negative. What got passed to us? So then when it comes time to blit the next character, how does this change? Oh. Okay. So I'm gonna keep original X position. So that's going to be like where we were asked to place the text, which might end up being slightly different from where the first line ends up based on if it's aligned to the right or the center. That's going to be the top left corner of our box, basically, the original X position. And then for each actual thing, we will... So what do we need start? We don't even really need start, do we? I guess because of that we need typo. Not really. Be referenced before assignment. Oh. Yeah, we're just gonna assume that that'll be correct now. We could eventually make this a property and have a raise an exception if you set it to a value that's not real. But for right now, I'm just gonna assume you did it correctly. So really, we're doing almost all of the same stuff here. Yeah, and we will use original still as well. And we have a new line width, so it will now work on the second line and third line and so on. Then we update that. Okay. I think that will do something. I'll get rid of the second label in a minute. Nice, look at that. We got a line right. Sweet. Bit of other text. We could get rid of these prints as well. That's why this goes so slow, is each one of those prints has to redraw the entire screen since it's scrolling line by line. But yeah, the line right looks good. Will a line center work? Nice. Yeah. Okay. So now one question is, how much do we actually change? If I compare this to the bitmap label which we started from. Well, yeah, it's a lot different because we took out the direction stuff. That's right. Okay. And save text. Okay. We didn't end up using lines, did we? I used self.lines, but that was inside a place text, which I did not even pass through. So I don't think we need lines here, actually. Which is actually probably for the better, because reset text might get called by label base whenever the text gets updated. One thing that would not be working right now, I don't think, is the padding. Like, maybe a line left would work. Let's take that print out. Right now we have no padding on the left. Okay, so that worked on the left. I wonder, padding probably wrecks the wrapping though, doesn't it? Ugh. Ugh. Yeah. And because of our nice break behavior earlier, it also just gets rid of everything else. We need to subtract the padding when we wrap. So this would be width minus padding left minus padding right, which are, yeah, they're going to be set because they got past to here and get set, I'm pretty sure. So hopefully this will wrap it so that it can still fit now. Yeah, okay. Okay, so the padding left is okay. The one thing I tested, it might still be bugged somewhere, but kind of worked at least. Line right, and then padding right, I assume will not be working. Yeah, we're basically butt up right up against the edge because we're not accounting for the padding. So back inside of reset text where we calculated start X, those in place text. So align center, I don't think we care about the padding. But align right, we need to subtract the padding right from this. There we go. Nice. Okay, let's make sure the wrapping still works as well. So if I set this to 40, we should still end up wrapping to less characters on a line, or 30 should probably work too. Nice, okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay, so we keep our alignment, but we also respect the padding. Cool. So right now, scale only works if you use proper syntax. Got multiple values. Oh, scales. Wait, got multiple values? Guess it got multiple values. That's true. So one thing to decide is how should height and width interact with scale? And I think that I lean towards basically keeping it how it is, which is if you choose to scale your label, the thing that will be visible on the display will be a multiple of the height and the width that you passed. which I think makes the most sense because, for instance, if you had created like a display shapes box, like a rectangle, display shapes rectangle, you would have given it a width and a height. And then if you would have gone and taken that rectangle and put it into a group and then scaled the group, the visual thing that you see would be twice the width and the height that you assigned. Now that's ever so slightly different because if you'll notice what I said was you put it in a group and then you scale the group. Whereas here we have the text box and we're scaling it directly. But the thing is that ultimately we extend group. So when we pass scale to this, we are actually passing it to a group that is containing a tile grid that is showing our label. So even though you don't explicitly create the group in the middle, there is one. And I think the behavior makes sense to match match that. Okay. Let's put that back to 1. Oh. What happened to the last line? Hmm. Well, that's weird. I'll just leave it saying left. I was eventually, like, my plan here was to make one that said left, 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 assign it to the left, and then make one that said center, 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 and put it in the center, and then one that said right, 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 and put it to the right. But we need to try to figure out what's going on with the lines here. Why would the last line be starting in the wrong spot? Like, oh, it's the space. It's the space. It's actually the right spot. It's actually the right spot. It's because of this space right here. Yeah. Hmm. Okay, I mean, this is kind of a janky way to do it, but, you know, it'll work. I don't remember the right way to slice, though. How do you do this? We don't need commas, really. I slice, is it like this? Yeah, pretty much, okay. Colon -1. REPL. There we go. Okay, the space at the end wrecked it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's fine. Because this is user code. So user code, like, you just shouldn't pass a space or else it's going to mess up the... Shouldn't pass a leading or a trailing space or otherwise it's going to mess up the alignment, right? Because you'll have an invisible character will be aligned over to there, which will not work quite right. I mean, it will work, but it will make it look like it's offset. And it technically isn't because there is technically a space there. The light is making me rather ghosty. I think I'm going to turn the light off, just kind of anyway. Eventually, that will just start to green screen my face anyway, so where I end up with a hole in my face, I'll just that off. Maybe turn this one on. R strip is a much better solution. Yeah. Yeah, and basically it's up to you. If you use text box, it's going to be up to you to not use a trailing or leading space. Unless you're intentionally trying to offset it from the alignment some. In which case, have fun. Okay, so let's go back to making what I was doing before, which is left for this one. Oh, I left padding on right. I was like, that looks like it wrapped so early, right? Like, surely it could fit another left there. And it could, but the thing is, there's actually the padding of 30 or whatever, so it can't fit the left and the padding. Take the padding off for now. Okay, so let's do width 200, height way less. Like, we only really need about 2 lines. In fact, maybe one more thing we could try to add support for. About 20 minutes. I don't know if I'll be able to do it. Let's see. Let's do dynamic height. Can you do negative constant? I think so, right? Let's do dynamic height. And I'm almost tempted to make these keyword arguments. That's weird because width is required and height technically won't be required. Well, I mean, it wouldn't be required because what I was thinking was it would use this if you don't pass it, but I don't want you to have to use its name. I think I'm just going to leave it for now, like that. And then what we could do is... Oh no, these are backwards. Can I copy those? Well, but I changed them, right? They're backwards in here, are they? Tough to say. X, Y, width, height. Yeah, width comes before height, so those should be in the right order. Okay, just got them wrong here. Luckily, I don't think I was really using them, but that would have definitely thrown off any user code that tried to query the size. I think I just want to update that to a different thing, right? So height, like basically what we will do is, how did height work before? Well, we didn't have a height before. Inside of a init, at least. We didn't get a height until we created the bitmap, which is in reset text. And we used box Y. Okay. Here's what I'm going to do. Yeah. So this is kind of, I don't know about this, but it's a way to do this, I think. If self.height is equal to as no dynamic height. I'm in the wrong one. Shoot. Get back to text box. Okay, if self.height is equal to dynamic height set it to box Y. And then the rest of this will just work. Yeah. Okay, so when you first initialize it, you're going to set it to dynamic height if you want that. It's technically going to be -1 for a little bit, but once it gets inside, once reset text is called for the first time, it will see that it's at dynamic and it will calculate its actual height. So we should be able to then go text box dynamic height, and we end up with one that's the exact right size vertically based on the text we put into it. Awesome. And I don't have any padding, although I think there is actually a bit of default padding, is there? I think there is. Ooh, we can't access it? I mean, there is an underscore. It's technically private, I guess. Technically, private's not a thing that exists in Python, so. Actually, it says 0. I guess we don't have enough space for like a space and then the word left. It's real close. Like it kind of looks like it could fit another left there, but it probably couldn't fit a space between them, so I guess that's why it wrapped. We wanted to make it not look so close. We could just use a slightly smaller one of these. Okay, yeah, now it even just at a glance to the eyeball, it looks correct that it wrapped. I think it was correct before. Just at a glance, it looked slightly like it wasn't. So probably like 201 or 202. If we had gone just a tad bigger, we could have probably fit that other one there. We were like right on the edge, basically. right under the edge, basically. Okay. Don't need that anymore. So y, we're gonna say y is actually 10 plus the left text area dot height. It's like an 10 maybe. Okay. Make it a different color. Okay, and then make a right one also. And we will put this one below the center. Actually, probably has the same height, so. Oh, but we need to add both actually. Okay, how about we actually do the center x.y plus the height plus 10. Do it. There we go. Okay, and then it is still centered, so let's go right. Oh, nice spaces. I think we used R strip instead of the slicing, huh? In fact, we have 2 spaces here as well. Right. Should I do 4? That's a sign I should not do 4. Okay, dynamic, right, light. Let's do yellow. Go. It kind of gets washed out on the camera. There we go. Oh, it says center. Nice. I mean, that seems like as good of anything as a an example of this, right? All right, so I'm here. I'm on main. I don't know which main I'm on. On root main. Branch text box. Already on main, so I don't have to declare it. So we go no track. And then New really matter, but I'm going to do Python file display text box test. What? Oh, copied the name of this folder instead of the code. Then we'll need text box as well. And then one thing that will still need a lot of work is this is all still the docs for bitmap label. I need to go and actually fix this to be about text box instead of about bitmap label. Like this is gone. Those directions are gone. So from here, we would get rid of some of this stuff. Yeah, doc strings are not correct at the moment. Boy, maybe, gosh. Oh. It's a shame kind of to not extend bitmap label. I will admit. Because if we could extend bitmap label, we could just reuse text bounding box, because I didn't change that, I don't think. So right now we have this entire function just copied inside a text box and bitmap label. I mean, we could extend bitmap label and then just hard code that direction to whichever one is the default left to right one. That might be the best option, actually. That might be the best option. Instead of extending label base to extend bitmap label, we're still going to have to basically have reset text and place text, you know, mostly duplicated. They're not the exact same, obviously, which is the whole reason why this one behaves different, but those would be mostly duplicated with the changes that we've made to make this work. But the rest, like text bounding box and all the rest of these at the bottom, which are less important, really, set line spacing, set font, set text, set background color, we would get rid of this one probably still. But all the rest of these, they could just reuse the same one. Yeah, I think that's actually the way to go. That's the way to go. I was scared about the directions, like trying to get rid of stuff while we extend, but we don't have to get rid of it like all the way. What we can do is just hard code it to the one left to right and then get rid of the ability to change it from there. And then we can reuse more of the code. I think that will be my plan. However, we have basically reached about the end for the time for the stream. So I will start to wrap it up here. If anyone has any last minute questions, comments, thoughts, ideas, anything you want to share with me or the rest of the chat, now's the time to do it. I will say that ordinarily, you can also find me streaming, working on some similar types of stuff on Saturday mornings. However, I am not going to be streaming tomorrow. So no stream for me tomorrow. But next week on Saturday, I'll be back at the normal time that I do usually stream on Saturdays, which is 10 a.m. Central Time. If you're interested in that, you can come back next week on Saturday for more. I'll also be back for Deep Dive next week. So Friday, 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Central, which is my time. Deep Dive, same time we started today. I'll be back for a Deep Dive, and then I'll be back to my regular schedule on Saturdays as well next week. So 10 a.m. Central on Saturday next week. have a good night, everybody. I hope you all have a good rest of your Friday and a good weekend and all that stuff. I will see you later. Thanks for watching. Bye.